nice hands coming up and moving across the floor. And then we do lines every single day with our entire team together. So we kind of mix them up. Sometimes it's varsity lines if I'm trying to focus on like these 5 have to be struts and they're in one line and whatever. Sometimes it's just totally mixed up if we're doing basics. Doesn't matter the level. So they will just leap across the floor, leap, step, leap, step, leap, step, leap, and then on a bad leg, which kind of practice both. We do the same thing with switch leaps. We do the same thing with stones, working on pressing the shoulders back. And what you're watching for as a coach are their feet. Watch their toes come off the floor, watch them push out of their ankles, and that's the place you have to do the correction if they're not. We don't have it in here, but this one that I want. Okay, so I can kind of show you generally. I'll be one. If you have the bars in your gym, like the pull-up or chin-up bars, it's like the racks. Clubs usually have them, high schools don't. But if you have them, essentially you want to have your gymnasts put their hands on the rack and put their foot close, kind of horizontal like a leap. Their bottom leg's going to be on the floor, so now they're like suspended, right? And all they're going to work on is pushing off the bottom leg to try to get that explosion. Again, you can weight it if they need more. But if you don't have that, you can use it. But essentially, you'd have the girl put her leg up onto the resi and push her shoulders back and just work on isolating, pushing off the back leg. And you can turn them around and have their back leg up and work on pushing off, kind of deer jump and then kick up. They're not pretty, they don't look nice, but it's kind of working on pushing off the springs of the floor, if that makes sense. So they're pretty ugly, but they do the trick as far as getting them to get their legs up. So you'll see those on there. It says bar mount or resi. You saw the switch leap drill. We use the blocks for those two, kind of jumping and pushing. I already talked about that in the ring reach. But for the drills, I know we're getting short on time. Essentially, I don't know if we're going to do as many of these because I'm looking at everyone kind of coming out of that last meeting because we ran over. I think the best thing to take away is do a lot of plyometric conditioning for dance. So using the ladder ropes, I think, is really key a lot of times. Having them I gave you kind of the progression. I do like fast feet, one leg hop, switching legs, but I do it in a circuit. So I usually will do 2 ropes, panel mats, and then some of these bigger ones are higher stacked panel mats. And they're going to do every one of those things over everything. They got to strengthen the ankles, the toes, the knees, and it's all about working the positions so that they can feel when it's wrong. Hops, backwards, forwards, hops onto blocks. Your high-level kids can do this with straight legs. Your lower-level kids are going to have to stop on each block probably, but you're going to want them going over these things with straight legs eventually. And then conditioning for poses. So if you sit on a block, or any of these mats, a lot of times you think of jumping, but if you just sit and have them kind of hold this like forward position, have them sit in a plank, have them hold tucked down, like conditioning, but just essentially holding the position and using that as like going slow and doing it with a partner, but working on the conditioning isolation. I do it up on a mat so they can't drop their feet to the floor. When they're on the floor, they like let themselves be lazy. They're like, oh, I'll put my heels down. But when you're up on a mat, you can't without like really messing with the drill. And then struts I just put on there because I think it's a popular jump. I can't do them. It's like one of those ones that just doesn't make sense in my brain. I can watch you do them and give you corrections. My team has tried to teach me, but I think that is sometimes fun. Let your kids pick a skill and let them teach you how to do the leap, and it helps them think about what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm like, what do I do? So every year my team teaches me how to do a strut. I have yet to learn it. However, they are better at doing it. So you can say crochet, hold, crochet, half, jump, split. We keep walking them through that particular progression. My girls like to do it up onto mats as well. So go up, you guys do these up onto the mat, stop, split jump, right? And then slowly isolate that position off the mat and we start connecting it to, we start straight jump first always, and then add moving the legs in after that time. I think basic things, I always just remember you have to tell, especially new gymnasts, where they're supposed to be looking in dance. My tagline, and my gymnasts know it, is do you feel the feet under, do you feel this carpet underneath your feet? And they'll be like, well, yeah. And I'll say, well, stop looking at it then. If you feel it under your toes, don't look at the floor. Find a spot somewhere in the gym, and we will, from I'm sure some of you do. I have my team all around the floor for floor routines, and they have to make eye contact with their teammates during dance, not tumbling, not the actual dance skill, but during the actual floor dance, and then they can sit down, and we see who's left at the end, and that's the part we try to work on, where their focus goes and gazing over the judge's head, because some of my gymnasts like to make eye contact accidentally, and then they're like, Campos, I look at the judge, and I'm like, did you wink? Like, I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? Like, okay, say hello then. But they, as soon as they see those eyes of the official, sometimes it kind of shuts them down. So, I don't know, is there anything you guys wanted me to talk about that is not, or a skill you're not, you have a question about training?
And your wolf jumps on beam,
yes.
Do you have preference? If the back leg is back, tuck to the butt or straight down?
Tuck to their butt is my preference. I think it looks cleaner because a lot of times when they leave it hanging down, they flex their foot. I don't see a lot of girls actually point that toe well with it hanging, so I think sometimes when they're thinking about pointing, not just a toe, but like through the ankle, it helps them by saying, get that ankle into your butt, and then they extend their foot. But it's not in the rule book as a difference. It just needs to be clean, and the front leg has a degree it needs to be at. It's also controversial if you lift the leg up or the chest down. You can do it either way as long as you're showing the angle of the hips. So I know coaches prefer it different ways. Same thing with straddle jumps. I've heard coaches say they don't want the knees turned up. To me, I feel like they should always be turned up, especially if you're turning. You should turn in the hips. You shouldn't be leading down with our knees. Like, we're not cheerleaders. We're not star jumping. But I'll see a lot of those kids come in, and I'm like, are you on the right team here? Like, turn those knees up. But I will do that sitting. Corey and I are actually talking about Shushanovas have like lost their, where was that? Like, I love them. I used to do a full fishing Shushanova, like, so every year it's my goal. 1 year I will get it back in someone's routine. But we got rid of those because kids they're in the rule book, they were hitting the floor like wet noodles, you know, like boom, 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 and then nothing. But I still train that, like, with kids, like to jump to the kind of shoulders in, keeping that hollow tummy, that kind of stuff. I would love to see that kind of, that turn to full. I do it on resis, on mats. I physically hold them and I'll rotate their hips and drop them. And I'm like, you're ready. But you can work positions like that. Sometimes it's helpful. You know, turn to the wolf, or turn to the pike, or, you know, the Copanova. It's easier for some kids to go from here and then just turn down and to close their legs and land on their feet. So I think sometimes we need to go back to some of these things that used to work, but they've become unpopular. You know, if you have a kid doing a turn on their toe and they're having a hard time, but you want that toe to land, just change your position. I'm kidding. My favorite jumps, I have my go-tos, the ones that work more often than not, but I literally will open the rule book and just go, I will make them try all of them. And even if there's one, you all know, look at the rule book, like, what is that? By the description, you're like, I don't know what this is. I've been around gymnastics my whole life. I don't know what this is. And I'm like, girls, figure it out. So we will try to like read the rule book and like see like what does it say, and is your body doing that? Look at the little picture. So we literally, every JV, every varsity does every single jump in the rule book, no matter if they think they have their lead pass and they're coming in from club. Sometimes the combinations don't make sense in high school that club coaches put in their routines. It just doesn't translate to credit in the same way. So we do dance every day in some way. And I think we have to think about dance differently. Dance also means conditioning, because to dance well, you need to be, your legs need to be well conditioned to be able to support in your core, to support the proper positions. I did put some supplies that I find to be my favorite. So I love ankle weights. My varsity girls all have them in their bags with them. And I'm a big fan of pool noodles. Or if you have like one of the cords or something like that. I like the pool noodles specifically because they're firm. And I don't want as much give sometimes. I want them to try to remain still. And again, it depends on the skill you're training, if you want them to be able to flex back or not. I use the same exact ones on beam, so they lift behind and push their shoulders back. I have horrible shoulders, so don't mind me. I'm always like getting corrected when I work out. They're like, push them back. I'm like, they don't go like that. But to push back with that noodle up and down, and then when they want to drop, they end up having the noodle around their butt. And it's a nice thing. The bands, they can manipulate them and still move their core. The pool noodle, they can't. They will kind of go concave. So it's a little bit easier for them to feel the correction and not work the band for their benefit, if that makes sense. Also, we progress through dance skills with the most basic to the highest level with every single level. So I have varsity girls, like my go-to connection on varsity is usually strug to copa, because we have to connect two different body shapes. It's high level, it's, it's a lot of bonus to connect those two things. The strug itself is 2/10, and then the connection is 2/10. So my kids will do that a lot of times.
Does the hump do two different shapes?
They do. We do in the leaf series. And then also for composition, you get a bump there for not being repetitive with the same exact shape. So, and I can talk to you too, because I used to be a judge, that you want to see that the gymnast can do more than one thing with their hips a lot of times. I have the requirement on there just to kind of review to everybody. 1 jumper leap on 1 foot of difficulty, and then the dance series of 2. I think one of the things I would really want to, a lot of coaches don't like this advice, stop putting full turns in their floor routines. It is the biggest 10th waster I've ever seen. The likelihood that they can come out on releve, kick out, shift their weight, and not get a deduction without turning their hips not the right way is very low. You might have a kid that does it beautifully, then leave it for them. But my club kids, I don't care, I take them out. It's that 1.5 turn. They still train it because I want to be respectful of their club coaches. When they go back, it can go back in, but it is absolutely valueless on floor. So if you're going to be teaching them a twisting jump, that gets you the full twisting credit. It doesn't need to be on your toe. So if they're going to do a jump full turn and they can land that like this, you got your full turn credit, and you're taking back tenths. So I like to say, like, don't put things in that are going to just give you a deduction. It doesn't make sense. Again, look at your gymnasts. They really don't do full turns well on a lot of especially the JV level. But your JV gymnasts can oftentimes do a jump full turn, and you have your credit, and then their score goes up a little bit, and that motivation for those JV kids you really need sometimes, especially your beginners. Then they don't have, think about the full turn, how often they like sickle their foot, they don't put it in the right spot, their hips are turning one way, their shoulders are going another, they get this weird, this thing, the spaceship landing hands. So if you can eliminate 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, wobble, 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 do something else. So that's one that has saved me time and time again, and judges oftentimes say thank you for taking it out, because they feel the same way. For leg shapes and stuff, I think the basics are always good. Basic splits, over splits, wall splits, but just training, like making them do those things. Isolation with kicks, front, side, backwards, just always kind of making sure both hips are always open. And you can incorporate that into your warm-up. I do Carlos's conditioning routine at the beginning of practice, like I stole that from him years ago. I've just kind of put these things into it as well. Working on shapes, I oftentimes do shape training on their backs without being on their feet. So you can lay on your back and go into a wolf position. You don't need to take off your sweatpants. I feel you, it's cold. So a lot of times, especially with this jump, like her arms are nice, and then you can isolate and kind of push down, or you can kind of show her that her knees need to be here, and she doesn't need to worry about standing and wobbling and what is she holding. But a lot of times, like, let's do this. Okay. Like, welcome to the beginners, right? So you can say to like a new gymnast on your team that doesn't understand a wolf jump, okay, I want to put your knees here. I want you to push your toe flat. I want you to try to kick your booty, right? And you smell your knee. You see how you were lifting this, but her hips can rock, because you can in a wolf jump. I know it's debatable, but if her arms are here, like feel your ears in between your arms. And you can do the same thing with pipe jumps, and you can tell her to take a deep breath. I think this is like key with dance is they stop breathing and then they can't hit the shapes. So if you kind of inhale and then exhale on your jump, and you can kind of show them when you're dancing, you have to control your breath, because when you exhale, you relax, you can get the position a lot easier than when you're nervous. Everything gets tight, and that's not a good thing for dancing. You can do the same thing with her split move to isolate, to kind of feel the open hip, and she's really tight. So, this hamstring is tight. So this would be something I would say, before we go further, go get a roller, roll out this hamstring before we start challenges. You can kind of just feel, do you feel you're tight? She knows she is, but the new gymnasts don't know. They're just like, my whole body hurts, and I'm like, great. And then to say, like, this is our straight jump position, but it's low stakes, no one really is seeing, their teammates can go around and say, like kind of basic where you can have them lay down. I also have them do it on the balance beam as well. I have them lay on the beam flat, pick the positions on the beam because it engages their core, and they have to learn how much their stomach does that jump, not just their legs. And it's kind of entertaining at first too to watch them kind of like, whoa! But you can do that with lots of different in-tuck jumps for the butt kickers. They can understand more that the belly button is there. You can tell them until they're blue in the face, like get your knees up to your belly button, and they still kick their butts. So if you just have them start super basic, it works. And then while leaping, I do a lot of weighted legs, which I think you're probably used to, right? Weighting both legs, front leg, back leg, depending upon what the gymnast needs. With the arm shape, I use the pool noodle a lot. I use it on beam too, so they push back with walks and kicks. You know, they'll do their normal kicks with the pool noodle back. This is over that thing. And you would push back. My club coach would do this all the time. I hated it before. But I would have to do like switch leaps with the pool noodle. So I used to do switch on beam, and then push back with that pool noodle. But it makes you really control and like activate the legs. It's scary, so it's tried on the floor line before you send them up to do a big leap with that pool noodle. I also use pencils. I know it seems like generic, but I started this mainly because PE classes use our balcony, and they always leave pencils everywhere. So I was like, well, fine, let's do something with them. I'm sick of picking them up. So we stick them between their fingers, especially for the kids that have these like claws that they like to bring out. I stick the pencils in between their fingers to kind of work on accenting the, looking more like a gymnast. I would say like gymnast fingers, please, so that they're not, I have those wrists, right? I use neck braces a lot of times for dance, not just for bars, but to kind of lift the chin up because they want to drop their head down a lot. So those are kind of the things that I like. Panel mats and blocks I think are key. You can provide airtime. I don't have a tumble track. I don't have a lot of supplies, to be honest. So I make do with literally the basics. I do a lot of springboard stuff for dance off of vaulting boards to simulate that. And I have just panel mats. I don't have any of these fancy blocks. So everything I'm showing you is literally, you can have nothing and you can still do all of this stuff. Okay, so for leaps, is anybody good at split jumps? You're up. All right, so you can do these on a trampoline if you have it, a tumble track if you have it. The higher level gymnasts can progress onto the floor, but just 10 in a row every side. And again, depending upon your lift, you could weight their ankles, you could put their wrist weights on. If you're using the elastiband, you can keep doing all of those things and add to it as they get better at it. But if you could just do a couple split jumps in a row, pressing your shoulders back. Kind of at first really like slow, like the idea is like the explosion off the heels and to get the ankles warmed up, because a lot of you'll see them like push back on their heels and then down and then up goes with the toes, but it should be coming off the tip of your toe and then up. Okay, and then for a lot of them I use beam too, so if she was holding onto the beam, just doing front kicks, swinging to the side, swinging to the other side, back kicks. If you have a kid training a ring leap, weight their back foot, have them hold onto the end of the beam, and kick back repeatedly, and then switch sides to make them do both. That hip has to actually open for the ring leap. And I think sometimes we just think about isolating the one that's going to bend, but if the front one doesn't go up, it's not a ring leap, right? Okay, leaping into leaps, like a regular leap into a big leap. So for especially newer gymnasts, what they typically won't do is when you want to actually get a leap to go up, you have to extend the last step, right? The last step should be the longest step that they take in order to kind of push up and get height. So what you can have your gymnast do is just simply take like a baby leap into their actual leap as their last step, kind of like a long last step and then a leap in order to have them work on going up. The knee hops, I know Corey talked about them in her beam presentation. So from here, and then you push up into your switch leap, or from here, and you can push up into a leap, depending on what you're doing. Yeah. Right, and those can progress up to the back, onto the beam. You can actually do them on beam, and then from that, you can do from knee to add another leap. If you watch her shoulders and her back, can you do a straight jump out of it? So if you think about the timing of jumps, a lot of kids like to start the second jump before the first one has ended. So if you can ask them to isolate the first and control and straight jump, and then you progress from there. If they're going to do a twisting jump out of it or another leap, they can keep pushing and you can keep adding what they were doing there. I do a lot of leaping onto panel mats or off of to the side of the panel mat, depending. This floor to me is like beautiful, like with all these lines, because you have like built-in guides for where their hips should be. So I always like to have the panel mat in the middle of whatever line, or if I don't have one, I put tape or chalk on it, just to kind of give them a focus point of like how to square off their hips in the different jumps. So pushing off, up onto it, or pushing onto the floor to give them a little more height if they're working on turning this. But it's not on here, but I think one thing I see a lot of errors with my own team is when they're trying to do a switch leap, they're switching too big on the front, right? So they're coming up like switch leap, but the rope don't need to be that high. It only says like 20 degrees in the rope book, so it needs to show the position, and then they need to kick back and put this front leg up. They try to switch leap, and then they're rocking, so they're getting a lot of deductions. So kind of watching them when they're doing these little things up onto the mat, how high are they swinging that front leg? They should be about the bottom leg lifting them off the ground. So that's where if you see them doing that, go grab a weight. Get the ankle weight on the front leg. You're not pushing off versus the back leg. E and F, I feel like make sense, right? A lot